Israel and Iran have continued to trade attacks. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has threatened to intensify the attacks while Tehran called off nuclear talks. Benjamin Netanyahu says that Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear facilities set the country's nuclear program back by a number of years. For more on this, we are now in conversation with the conflict resolution expert, Dr. Kingsley Makhubela. Dr. Makhubela, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Considering what is currently playing out in the Middle East, I wonder whether this means that we are on the verge of an all-out conflict in the Middle East.
Good morning, Aldrin. You know, when we look at what's developing between Israel and Iran, I'd just like us to step back a little bit, Aldrin. Sometimes last few weeks, there have been reports, I think in the last 2 weeks, there have been reports that Iran has managed to get top secret nuclear documents from Israel. And that has resulted in a clampdown of what Israel thinks are the moles within the Israeli system. Then on the 10th, there's been a tension that is building up. On the 12th, Aldrin, there was a meeting at the IAEA where they took a resolution that Iran is not in compliance with its obligation in terms of uranium enrichment. That's on the 12th. South Africa is part of the IAEA. South Africa abstained in that vote. Only 3 countries voted against: China, Russia, and Burkina Faso. In terms of that process, that report from the IAEA is supposed to go to the Security Council for ratification or for affirmation. Now, it couldn't go to the Security Council because Russia and China would veto that. So on the 13th, Israel launched what it's called Operation Rising Lion, targeting senior officials within the army and some nuclear scientists. One of the scientists that has been assassinated on the 13th is part of the negotiation team for Iran and was supposed to be participating last Sunday. That was followed by a retaliation from Iran. And the retaliation from Iran, Aldrin, has been unexpected. The Israelis never expected this. Iran hits targets within Israel, including the Ministry of Defense of Israel, with impunity. No, the Iron Dome literally collapsed, and the Iranians have found a way to bypass the Iron Dome and hit targets in Israel, and that has been really severe.
Does that then mean, because the Iron Dome has always been described as so insulated, great intelligence, that you are not able to cross that buffer, does this mean that Israel currently stands more weakened or exposed at least?
Israel is very exposed. If you look at the Ministry of Defense of Israel, what it's usually colloquially referred to as the Dome of Zion. It has been bypassed. The ministry has been relocated. They've hit the Weizmann Research Institution that provides a lot of support to Israelis' research intelligence in the military and so on. Iranians have managed also to hit the Haifa refinery that really processes close to 10 million tons of oil a day. So Israel is in serious trouble too. Having said that, Aldrin, the Israelis have hit targets in Tehran with impunity too. But there's been a report of serious decoy that the Iranians worked on. And as a result, their missile system is intact. There are claims that by Israel that they've hit Isfahan Research Institute, but the Isfahan nuclear research for the Iranians, Aldrin, is located in the mountainous areas. And the Israelis have used the bunker blasters to hit that. 2 bunker blasters were used. But reports that are coming out is that they didn't manage to destroy that. So the Iranian nuclear intact, the Iranian nuclear program is intact. Now, Aldrin, the big problem here, I'm not a nuclear scientist, but scientists are saying Iran has managed to achieve 60% of enrichment. And to 60% of enrichment is not enough to make a weapon. You only need 90%. To achieve 90% is not an overnight issue. It will take time. So the argument by Israel that it's an existential threat that emanates from the Iranian nuclear program is without basis.
Yeah, and we remember back in 2010, for instance, with Iran's attack. This is now Israel's attack on Iran with the Stuxnet. 8 years later, Benjamin Netanyahu saying that Israel had obtained a trove of documents from Tehran's warehouse purporting to show Iran's efforts to conceal nuclear activity before the 2015 agreement with world powers. And speaking about world powers, and that's a report in Euronews, is the G7 summit is taking place. What can come out of the G7 summit that will signal perhaps maybe a de-escalation of these attacks between Israel as well as Iran?
The biggest intervention that I've seen is day before yesterday, a telephone conversation between President Trump and President Putin. They've had a discussion, and the details of the discussions did not come out. They had 50 minutes of discussion, but no doubt that they did discuss the situation in the Middle East. They are very concerned about that. Russia has a lot of influence in terms of Iran. The United States has absolute control of the Israelis. So I think out of that, they would manage to persuade and come up with some level of peace. I've seen President Trump yesterday saying that he hopes that there will be peace, there will be a deal between Iran and Israel on this matter. But this is coming up, Aldrin, at the backdrop of the serious attacks that has been inflicted on Israel. It's never been seen before. If you look at what happened, what's going on in Haifa and what's going on in Tel Aviv, it's unprecedented. That Iran has shown its military superiority to hit targets at will. And as we are talking, this conflict is continuing.
Yeah. And just quickly in conclusion, Dr. Makhubela, if we look at the day after the first attack took place, the statement that came from the Secretary of State of the U.S., Marco Rubio, saying this, the United States is not involved in this unilateral action. What message does that send?
Well, you know, they've been blowing cold and hot air. That's what Marco Rubio said. At one stage, there was a message by President Trump that the United States may get involved in this conflict. But Aldrin, even within the G7, there's no unanimity in terms of their position. Japan has come up very strongly against Israel, that the attack was unprecedented. But as this thing is evolving too, Pakistan has come up that should Israel use nuclear to attack Iran, they would drop a nuclear bomb on Israel too. So the situation is getting absolutely out of control. And I think Mossad will be under serious scrutiny. And moving forward, whatever happens, if there's a peace agreement now, this is definitely the end of Netanyahu, because the Israelis have seen something that they've never seen. They've always watched this happening in Gaza. Yeah. But to get the destruction at this magnitude in Rafah and Tel Aviv, it's unprecedented. That's the end of the political career, in my own view, of Netanyahu.
I'll have to wait and see how that one is going to unfold, also considering the coalition government in Israel. But thank you so much for making time for us this morning. That was a conflict resolution expert, Dr. Kingsley Makhubela.